previously on Alone in the Dark.
Meet me at the museum, Edward. Room 943. Obviously, we're in deep shit.
I'm Sarah Flores. You're not a cop, are you?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Great! My rescuer is more fucked up than I am! Don't try to take advantage of the situation.
Don't flatter yourself.
Everything okay?
No! Not okay! Jesus, you're cut! Almost down to the bone!
I'll be all right.
An ambulance! Get over here!
My God. Who the hell am I?
How's the memory, Mr. Carnby?
Carnby.
Yes, that's your name, you poor fool.
Edward!
Miss me? Professor Edward Carnby. Researcher. Paranormal investigator. Huh? Disappeared under strange circumstances in 1938.
I mean, you're like
100 years old.
There must be some mistake.
Waking up tonight was a fucking mistake.
Take it easy, Edward. I'm sure there's a perfectly reasonable explanation.
Well, for what it's worth, I'll send the files to your cell phone so you can, I don't know, whatever.
Doc, we got another call.
Look, we gotta go. You two coming?
She is. I'm going to the museum.
The hell I am. You think I'll be safe here?
Don't fuck around or I'll shoot you myself.
Oh, you're a real sweetheart.
Thanks, Doc. Stay safe.
I know this place. We might find some interesting things there.
So we have finally managed to regroup with Sarah, and I can only assume endear ourselves to her by threatening to shoot her, which means we can finally make our way over to the museum. Before we do that though, it might be very prudent to go ahead and set up some favorites. Now what favorites are is a means to set up certain item combinations to the face buttons, and this can kind of make or break some combat situations because, well, the game doesn't pause whenever you open up your jacket. So if you're in the middle of a heated battle, you're really not going to be able to easily make a Molotov or, switch over to your gun or do, quite a bit of things. So setting up your favorites will not only save you time, but also save your life. So I'm just going to set up my gun and some Molotovs and a little makeshift flamethrower. And I think we should be good to go. Also, the game does tell you there that you can easily cycle through your left and right hand items, but that can be a little bit cumbersome. Also, we do immediately get a message, and it is from the doctor there, Dr. Hartford, I think. Yeah. As he mentioned, he was going to forward us some of the information regarding Carnby's backstory and his 100-year-old lifespan. And more or less, this is just a way to tie in some of the other Alone in the Dark games and, I guess, an easy-to-swallow caplet. Doesn't really cover Alone in the Dark 2 or 3, but it does cover some of the backstory for Alone in the Dark 1 and A New Nightmare. So that is nice. They didn't want to completely throw away all the other games' backstory. Still, before we continue to the museum fully, I guess we really should maybe take in the sights of Central Park here. Now, I've never personally been to Central Park myself, so I'm not sure if they do have these little historic buildings just kind of littering the park where you can take a little touristy visit and see some of the old world style that the park has to offer.
I'll wait for you outside.
In this case, though, we seem to have caught this building in the middle of renovation, so there isn't too much to see. And in fact, it might be a very good idea that we do not stay here for too long. Not only does the building seem rather rickety, but seems to be something outside that is trying to get our attention. And yeah, much like Hunter S. Thompson, we have entered Bat Country. And while previously the vampires were not that much of a threat, when they come at you in a horde, they can be very dangerous. In fact, their combined strength is enough to lift the car up off the road. So, in this particular chase situation, you just want to try to go as fast as you can. The tooltip does say that if you kind of ram into things, it will temporarily dislodge the vampire bats. That doesn't seem to work out for very long. And I think more than anything, there just seems to be some checkpoints that you hit that will sometimes just knock the bats off, and I think that's why the game tries to encourage you just to go as fast as you possibly can. In fact, if you do manage to go as fast as you can, the bats just seem to completely lose you. I've seen some videos where people have a little bit of troubles with this section, but for me, it was a pretty calm drive all in all. So, I think we're just gonna let the driving take over and listen to a little bit of the radio.
Damn! I don't want to die!
Seems, though, that we've managed to go out of the frying pan and into the proverbial fire here, as getting away from the bats just inevitably leads us right into their massive nest. Yeah, this is what could be considered the first boss fight of the game. This large tendril of vampire bats that can, well, they can somehow lob massive pieces of the geometry at you, which do a massive amount of damage given the chance. But, as with most enemies in the game, the solution you want to go for here is fire. Though, you do want to make sure and attack the core here at the bottom. With the emphasis of actually hitting it and not just ricocheting off the broken bridge bits. I do highly recommend, though, not getting super close or even underneath the bridge, because if you do, it just leads into, well, automatic death, as the vampire bats will swarm you. After you do manage to connect, the nest goes into overdrive, and it starts to pump out even more bats and start to lob even more pieces of geometry at you. The good thing is that there are plenty of bottles of explosive liquids, there's plenty of, I think, wicks around, and I think there are even a few healing items and bullets, so you aren't going to be very hard up for items. Really, the most dangerous thing here is making sure not to just stand in front of the nest and try to get in as many attacks as possible. Because once it starts to go into a frenzy like that, you are more than likely going to get hit by something very large and very damaging. So this boss does not follow the rule of threes. It does take 4 explosions to get rid of, so this should be the coup de grace here. And I nearly got mangled by the hot dog stand there, but I think we should be good to go. And while it may seem like things have not gone according to plan, you would be wrong.
Nice work. How'd you do this?
Not sure. It's like some sort of buried instinct. It's primal.
Something connected to your amnesia?
It's not just that. Maybe Crowley's right. There's something inside me, something dark and violent. I know I've done fucked up things in the past. I can feel it. Something to do with the stone. I don't know. Maybe I'm doing the wrong thing here. All I've got to go on is Paddington's word. And I don't even remember who the hell he is.
Screw Crowley. And maybe you can't trust Paddington, or even yourself. But you can trust me, and for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. This path of light, or whatever, we need to try and solve this mess.
Let's hope you're right.
Yeah, it's a bit of a questionable, I guess, story decision to try to paint Edward as this edgy, dark anti-hero, because pretty much all the other games just had him as a paranormal detective. I guess it was just kind of the flavor of the times to really try to upsell the dark, brooding hero, but I don't know. It just doesn't really work since they still want to do callbacks to the other games. Still, before we continue on, since we did just use up a few of our explosives and, well, our primary healing item, might as well go ahead and restock since they do give us a nice little cache of items back here. It always is good to keep track of all the items you have. So we just need to refill on some explosive bottles. I think we should be good to go. Now, we are going to have to get up to the road. And since both stairways are blocked, we're going to have to go underneath the bridge here. Where normally, Sarah would be waiting for us. It's just for some reason, she has not appeared. Which is a bit perplexing, though not really that much of an issue. If she was here, she would just be trying to remind us that we do need to keep heading towards the museum. But we already know that. Still, I do kind of wonder where she went off to.
Hey, look on the bright side. You're in great shape for an old man.
Forgive me for not laughing. My dentures would fall out.
Hey, lighten up. At least we can trust each other.
You don't even know who I am, Sarah. Shit, I don't even know who I am.
Okay. I know this is hard on you, but god damn it. Do you think all this is easy for me? We both feel alone right now, believe me.
Well, drop it.
And we get a quick, threatening text from Crowley. Seems we had some run-ins with him back in China. And without him, without Theo, we're not going to be able to bring back the Lightbringer. So we're not sure who that is.
What the hell does that mean?
Lightbringer? I wonder, did you ever take Latin? I remember this much. Light is Lucis, and to bring is Pharaoh. So, Lightbringer is actually Lucifer.
Are you suggesting that this is all about Satan making a comeback?
That's what he said, isn't it? The Lightbringer and a prophecy about the stone.
I hope the prophecy starts telling us what the hell we're supposed to do about it then.
And just like that, Sarah gets sucked back into the pocket dimension, wherever she happens to be right now. But more than that, we do get, I guess, what could be a very important piece of the story, and that's the, I guess, possibility that we could be trying to summon Lucifer to Earth? Which is another questionable design decision slash, story decision. None of the previous games really delved into Christian mythology. They would sometimes go into Native American mythos or, Cthulhian, Lovecraftian ideas, but not really Christianity. Also, we run into another one of these mysterious staticky areas. And if you did watch the previous bonus video, you might already know about this, but for those that missed that, this would be your first introduction to, well, what initially seems like a side quest in the game.
I don't think I'm gonna follow you in there.
Also, I'm getting the feeling that Edward is kind of losing his mind, but we'll get to that later. For now, before we head in there, I think we want to get a little bit more prepared than we were with the vampire's nests, and for that, it doesn't really make a lot of sense, I'm sure, but we want to go ahead and douse our bullets with explosive liquid. Now, that doesn't really seem like the best idea, but in the case of the game, what that does is that it will give us flaming bullets. These bullets not only do more damage, but if you manage to hit an enemy in just the right spot, you can instantly finish it off. It's just that with our currently blurred vision from whatever mysterious thing is inside this little building here, it's going to make things a little bit more difficult, though we do find out that we have another brand new mysterious power that involves us closing our eyes. By doing that, we suddenly see these fissures on the enemies, and they will give us an indication of, well, I guess an enemy's weak point. If we do manage to hit that with one flaming bullet, these enemies will just immediately die. And while that may seem not that hard to do, as you can probably tell, they are pretty quick moving. And honestly, the hit detection on the bullets is not great. In fact, it's kind of terrible. But it feels pretty good when you do manage to hit them in just the right spot. In the end, though, there is a much easier way to deal with them, and that is a flamethrower. If you do have one of these little makeshift flamethrowers, it makes dealing with the normal human enemies pretty easy. Also makes dealing with these mysterious roots here a lot easier as well. These are what's causing our vision to be blurred and what was causing the staticky effect in the area. And a quick little snifter of fire takes care of them, toot sweet. In fact, you might also notice as we were taking them down that a spectral vision meter was slowly filling up. And as we take care of more and more of those roots, that meter will fill up more and more. And we actually will get some additional benefits to our magical blinking vision. In this case, I think by getting up to, 10 points in spectral vision, by blinking we can now open our eyes again and the weak points will kind of stay lit longer, which can be pretty beneficial. Also, what's extra beneficial is the fact that the lake house here managed to be pretty nicely stocked with explosives and weaponry, so that allows us to refill, and we can now continue back on our way over to the museum. Keeping in mind, though, that this is completely optional for right now. Now, the strange thing is that the rest of our journey to the museum is kind of uneventful. It's a bit strange that no enemies will spawn, nothing of real danger will happen, outside of maybe running into a tree here and there, which is actually pretty dangerous. Yeah, it's just a nice little drive through the park. And in fact, it seems like we are pretty close to our destination. I think we can consider this a pretty successful drive all around. Yeah, I gotta give myself a hand for doing such a great parking job here. Still, we are finally super close to the museum. It's just with pretty much every other destination that we've had to get through throughout the game, it's not going to be quite as simple as just going over to the building. Yeah, it's another very large crevasse that we are going to have to get across, and well, we don't currently have a easy-to-use ramp to get over there, but via that cutscene, we are given pretty much the tools we need to get across. First of those is going to be the flashing lights over there in the distance, because they are sitting on top of, I think, a tow truck. Also, if this section seems a bit devoid of sound, that's because Sarah is supposed to be here giving us little hints here and there, such as, "Hey Edward, go get in that truck," or "Hey Edward, I'm going to be your love interest in the future." So, be happy that she's not here, kind of. Now, after we get the truck into position, next thing we want to do is get the ramp lowered. And then the final step in our master plan to get to the museum is, well, simply shooting off the locks that are holding up the last little bits of the ramp. Should be simple as pie.
Oh shit! Not them again!
Sadly, though, things cannot be that simple, and this would be one of the parts where Sarah would actually come in a little bit handy because she would distract the bats. And they would also kind of drag her off to the museum, so we'd get a little bit of a reprieve from the horde here, but all we need to do is get to the truck here and we should be good to go. Yeah, just need to get it into drive. Just need to straighten it out a little bit. I think I got it. Yeah, just a little bit more. Just a little bit. There we go. I think we should be good. Now it's time just to make another kick-ass jump. And there we go. You know, I really love it when a plan just flawlessly comes together like that. And even though we did manage to lose the mysterious voice in our head, we have finally made it to the museum after, after almost 2.5 chapters. Also, in case you were curious as to whether or not this was the museum, they do make sure to mark the gates with a big M. Because, well, M is for museum. No, it should just be a simple matter of trying to find the best way to get inside. Before we get inside, we have to evade this. Oh, well. Before we get inside, we should evade the fissure, but due to my bad luck, I managed to somehow run straight into it. And for those that were curious about what happens when the fissure does grab a hold of you, you are treated to an almost comical dragging scene where Edward is slowly crushed to death. Now, if you're wondering how you can get out of that, we'll be finding out in just a little bit. For now, I think we should come to this party a little bit better prepared. Yeah, for however dangerous these fissures are, they are pretty easily susceptible to fire. Especially the little flamethrower here just does a massive number on them. And if you were wondering if we could use the oddly placed nearby playground equipment for some protection, no. The fissure will pretty easily rip that apart, and I think it's just a trap to get you killed, like you were trapped in a Tremors movie. Still, I think we've managed to find a backdoor route into the museum here. Just need to get this elevator to work. With our very astute electric skills. And we do have to do something slightly different this time around, because the first and second set of wires do not seem to have any current running through them, but if we go to the third set, we should be good to go.
Edward, I'm inside the museum. I fought them off and they dropped me, but I can hear them looking for me.
Hide somewhere. I'll be there as soon as I can.
Shit, they're getting closer. Oh, God!
God damn it.
Alright, so Sarah has somehow managed to evade the huge horde of bats and then gotten captured by them again. Kind of makes you wonder exactly what the bats are planning. Still, it is a nice sense of accomplishment to finally make it almost inside the museum. And technically, you could ride the elevator up one more level. It won't get you into the museum, but I think you can get a few more supplies. But for right now, I think we are pretty well equipped. I think we can take on anything that might try to attack us. Especially in this very lavish-looking bathroom here. I mean, they even have special lights to light up your genitals, so that's a pretty sweet urinal. Still, what's not as sweet is dealing not only with a fissure in a very small room, but also dealing with forgetting how controls work. In my haste to try to bring up my favorite for the flamethrower, I did manage to get caught by the fissure, though I did finally strike gold with figuring out how to get out of the fissure, which somehow made it disappear, or at least for a little bit. But yeah, as far as I can tell, to escape the fissure, I think you just have to hold up and start mashing A, and I think you'll finally drag yourself out of it. I'm wanting to say that the reason that sometimes the left or right analog stick icons pop up is because I think you need to right yourself into kind of a vertical position before you can start pulling yourself out of the ground. Overall, though, the better strategy is just not to get trapped inside the fissure at all. That is just kind of a problem, though, in especially tight corridors with the fissure here. It ends up moving around so fast that even with the easy use of the flamethrower, you're still going to miss quite a bit. It is kind of a bummer, though, that we didn't manage to save the toilets at all. Probably would have been a pretty good place to take a dump. And hey, we managed to find ourselves in the open fire exhibit in the museum, so before we can continue on, we are going to have to take care of that. And though it has been quite a bit of time since we have had to deal with fire, we probably do remember how to do that. The good news is that there is a fire extinguisher along with some other helpful supplies in the janitor's closet here. So we should be able to easily put out these flames and maybe go refill on some of the items we managed to lose by dealing with all those horrible fissures.
Sarah, what's happening? Are you okay?
Hurry!
I'm coming. Hold on.
Or we're not going to get any of those items. Still, for right now, we probably don't need them. We're still pretty well stocked, and more than anything, we probably need to get to Sarah because she seems like she's in a pretty dire state. So since this medical spray is pretty low, we can go ahead and empty that out, as it is completely useless as a healing item. And hey, wouldn't you know it, there is another healing station right nearby. It's got some bandages, first aid spray. Hell, it's even got some medicinal bullets, so that's pretty good. It does kind of leave you wondering, though, after all the vampire bats outside and all the other fissures, it seems a bit too quiet now. There we go, that was kind of more what I was expecting. So, say hello to an upgraded version of the humanoid enemies. I'm wanting to say these things are called demons, maybe. And the game decides to introduce them in a very, very cumbersome situation. I mean, they have long-range throwing, like, spears that I think they emanate from their body. And you are kind of blocked from getting to them by that little puddle of fire there. And there is a fire extinguisher where if you are feeling ballsy, you can just kind of run up and try to take out the flames before you fight this guy, but I have a better idea. Yeah, Molotovs and explosive bottles do a pretty good job of solving most any enemy encounters you might face in the game. Assume that's kind of why they limit you to having maybe 4 at a time at most. And yeah, he did not come alone. He brought a friend. But yeah, these upgraded enemies have honestly almost double the health of a normal humanoid enemy, and they have an endless array of these throwing daggers. And while they don't do a lot of damage on their own, they do kind of pile up, and well, once they start moving in, they can hit you pretty hard. But I hit even harder. Against myself. I'd still consider that a victory, though. We did manage to live, and we do have plenty of bandages and healing items, so I don't really think it was that much of a loss, just probably not the smartest way to deal with that situation. Yeah, it's nice that they were able to add to the nearby exhibits in the museum here. It's just we really don't have time to take all that in. We do need to get to Sarah. And though I wasn't that great at pummeling doors before, I have had plenty of practice, so this goes a little bit smoother. That sounds like Sarah, and she's right nearby.